What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with the overall market and talk about some key levels. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposits $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 25 in total. And deposit $5,000, you're guaranteed 60 free stocks. The offer ends on June 3rd in just about 2 weeks from now. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with this market. So, one thing worth mentioning is that SPY is range bound right now. As we hit 585, we tend to get rejections, but as we're at 580, we tend to bounce. So, we've been going back and forth for the last couple of hours in this range, and that's going to determine where the market's going to go, at least moving forward. So, the data that came out was decent. We had our S&P Global Composites PMI, manufacturing and services PMI reports all above expectations, showing some strength right now, and that's why the market did see a more positive reaction. Since then, we just got some bill auctions, and nothing else is too significant that's coming out, at least for now. I do want to mention, though, that the U.S. House of Representatives passed President Trump's tax bill, which is some big news because this goes to show that it's going to be going to the Senate very soon. And once, if they pass it very soon, I don't know exactly when they will, whether it's, next week or in a couple of days, that could be quite bullish for the stock market, depending on when they pass it, because then President Trump would sign this into law. And that would be, very, very bullish because this includes a lot of things. I'll go over the details in my later video. I just want to put that out there. Once the bill passes, I do think that's going to be bullish, but I'm not sure if we're, done with the downside yet or not. It depends on how well we could hold 580. So for SPY, okay, what's going to happen is that hypothetically, if 580 holds from now on, okay, this is going to be our 50 EMA. Then we're going to be looking for a nice rebound, and we could be looking for an attempt to break all-time highs as we get into June. The Trump tax bill could be the next big factor to really push this higher if we're going to bottom right here. Now, what if this is not the bottom, right? There's could always be news tomorrow. It's also possible that this is not the bottom. If 580 breaks, we could be dipping to, this gap support around 578 to the gap area around 566. So 566 to 575, that range right over here is where this thing could also bottom. If we fail at 580, we could be coming all the way down here before we see a big bounce and a big break of uh, you know, these big levels. So I'll be watching this very closely just to see where do we end up bottoming. Where is the bottom going to be at 580, or do we dip lower to get back down to 575 or so before we see a big bounce? I'll be watching that very closely for the next couple of days, but that's what I'm essentially anticipating. So what you'll be watching for is how well do we hold here. If we get above 585, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to about 588 after that. So we'll see if that ends up getting, some more upside potential or not. So that's going to be very key for where we end up going. And then if we end up losing our support, we're going to be looking for a move right back down if we end up failing at 580. So it all depends. Can we hold 580 or not? Do we end up forming a bottom here, or do we end up failing and dipping more? I'm not 100% sure right now. Excuse me. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just waiting to see how these levels develop. So we have to be very patient for now. But we'll see how it ends up going. We still have that gap to fill on SPY way down here. It hasn't gotten filled yet, so we'll see if that gets filled or not. But for now, let's see how well we could hold above 580, if it holds or not, and then that's going to determine where we end up going. On the QQQ, we're also sort of like range bound. We like to reject near 517, but we're also getting bought back up around 510. Came very close to the 507 target we had. It came close. So the question is this going to be a lower high rejection? Do we go all the way down to 507, if not to the low 500s? If we don't hold 507, so the first support's 510, then 507. If 507 fails us, we have 500 and 490 as our two supports, especially as we have this gap over here. So I'll be watching to see how well we hold support. If we get a big rejection, we could be looking for a dump back down closer to the 490s before we try to bounce. Or what could happen is if the bottom's in, if we end up breaking past like 517 to 520, this could be trying to make a big bounce, a big move back up to push after we get the next tax bill. So it depends, guys, on if the bottom's in or not. I can't really promise that yet. There is still potential for us to go lower in case we do get a rejection. So we'll see if we end up making another low. it is possible we do that and we see like 507 in the low 500s before we try to get some kind of bounce, but that depends. So make sure you're prepared for anything just to be safe and watch your levels. Do we reclaim 517 to 520 and remain more bullish from here, or do we end up failing? Do we get a big rejection and do we end up dipping below 510? That's going to be dependent on some more news coming out for tomorrow. There's still some tensions between the US and China and other factors. So we just have to wait and see at this point. And I'll give you guys an update very soon. But nonetheless, whether the bottom is at 510 on the QQQ or if we go all the way down to 500, if not the 490s, I do think we're going to be getting a big bounce by 490 or above that level. We're going to get a very, very big bounce once the market's ready. So keep that in mind. We're just seeing a temporary dip for now. For the IWM, we've dipped quite a bit. We actually filled the gap finally, so it did come down to our target already. If we end up holding this low now at this 201 area, then we could be looking for a big bounce. But if we don't hold 201, we could be dipping all the way down towards the 190s before we get that bounce. So there could be another dip coming, so we'll just have to see how it goes. For ES, we're getting lots of rejections off this blue trend line. We're watching support right here at basically the first level is around the 5,800 area to see if we hold here. If that doesn't hold, we're looking for gap support at 5,750. Then we have this gap fill around 5,680. So I do anticipate it's possible we come down like this before it tries to rebound. If we break this blue trend line, that's going to be bullish. That's going to be the bullish case. If we break out of this trend line, we're looking for new highs to be made. But if we fail and if ES cannot hold 5,800, there could be another big dump coming to fill this gap or get very close to that before we get that big bounce. So it depends. Can we hold 5,800 or not? Do we get a bounce there or not? I'll be watching that very closely, at least for the time being. For NQ, we dipped quite a bit, but the question is, can we break out of this? Do we break out and get back above 21,400 to rally, or do we end up failing at 21,000 and then start dipping lower? If 21,000 fails us, we could be dipping all the way down towards 20,800 or below before we see some kind of bounce move. So keep that in mind. It depends on if we could hold 21,000 from here. It's very tricky. The market's trying to trick a lot of people, so we have to be very patient, and we'll see just to be safe. On Bitcoin, we remain bullish, looking for 112,500 as our target. Tesla's range bound between 338 and 345, trading sideways right now, but there is potential to break out if we get back above 345. We might just do this for some time and we'll see if Tesla makes a new low before it tries to bounce, um, or if the low is already in. Do we come down one more time and then try to get some kind of big bounce from here before we start breaking 350 as we approach the robotaxi event? Or do we end up, is the bottom in for now? And is Tesla going to be just making a higher low before it bounces? I'll be watching for that, but be ready for a big bounce in Tesla once we get to June. In Nvda, we're just range bound right now. I'm still watching to see if we get a lower high rejection. Do we get a dump back down below 130 to push like 128 before it tries to rebound? Or does Nvidia end up just bottoming here as the bottom in and then we bounce? I'll be watching for that as well. If we break 135, we're back to bullish, so just keep that in mind. Apple already dumped. We already pretty much filled this gap down here. Do we get one more leg down towards like the lower, the mid 190s before it tries to see a big bounce? Or is 200 going to hold and we bounce from there? I'll be watching that now as time goes on. For Coinbase, we have a bullish wedge here. As long as we're above this trend line, we're actually favoring 272. On Amazon, we need to lose 200 to remain bearish. If we lose 200, we're looking for that gap fill to 193. If we hold this and break past 205, we could be looking for a big rebound, so keep that in mind. On Meta, we're just trading sideways, so we'll be watching to see if 624 fails us to dip lower. If not, we could be looking for a big rebound move, so I'll see that. I do anticipate some sideways price action for now. For Google, we're looking bullish, looking for 177 as our potential target. It's got some nice catalysts. Even Microsoft is holding up right now. We need to lose like 453 to 450 to be bearish. As of right now, it's in a sideways channel, but there is upside potential as long as we're above 453, at least moving forward. Finally, the VIX is showing some weakness. We have a wick here, so could it dip a little bit as the market bounces, but then we'll just get another breakout move. I'll be watching that to see if the inverse head and shoulders is complete or not. It could go either way. So honestly, guys, I know that the market's very choppy right now. We could make a new low and start dumping to like 575 to 566 on SPY before we see a monstrous bounce. Or if 580 is the bottom, then we could bounce from here. It depends make sure you're very, very careful with the levels, and we'll see if 580 holds or not. As of right now, we're range bound on SPY, so give it some time. But keep in mind, guys, the downside is going to be very limited. This is just a temporary dip, may last another week or so before we see a monstrous bounce once we have President Trump's tax bill passed. I'm not saying the tax bill is good or bad in general. I'm just talking about the markets. The market's going to see a bullish reaction once it comes out, once it's officially passed, in my opinion. But for now, we'll just have to see where the market bottoms. So please keep that in mind. The bottom is going to be forming very soon. Thank you for listening. Have a good one and peace out.